I'm here with Stylosa, one of the most prolific, most watched, perhaps most reasonably outspoken advocates of Overwatch and
That's
content
very
creators,
generous.
of course. We're at an interesting time right now, right? It's a couple of days after the 6th anniversary. How would you talk about or think about these 6 years you've had with the game?
I think I'd look at them in the first 3 years of Overwatch, and then the 3 years we've just dealt with, which have been very difficult to deal with. Yeah, it's difficult. When I look back at, oh man, when you look back, oh, you're killing me, Yiska. When I look back at the launch of Overwatch, and I look back at what happened in 2016, and I look at 2017, and even 2018, yeah, I think like if we look up to like the Blackwatch archives event, I think in my head after that, that's when we started to go into which I think we could very diplomatically say is a content decline. And then things started to get very worrying. And I remember going from 2018 into 2019, late 2019 when we had the Overwatch 2 stuff at Blizzcon. I think genuinely we were thinking, oh wow, this game's probably going to be out next year. And then I remember 2020, early 2020, we had Echo, and I was told by Jeff, this is the last hero in the game. We're going full steam ahead into Overwatch 2 development. All the signs there are like, wow, this is we're going to get this towards the end of that year. Of course we didn't, and now we're in 2022, and we're starting to get some stuff coming out. It's been difficult. I'd be lying if I said it's not been difficult. It has been very, very difficult, especially the last 3 years.
Sure. Now, on that roller coaster of emotions of being told, okay, this is coming, maybe this, and then it isn't, and then we don't hear anything, and now we're hearing a little bit more. Where are you on the graph of like emotional state with development in terms of Overwatch?
Abject despair. No, I'm not. I'm like, listen, yes, I've done this for too long now, so I think, I yeah. So we've been very stagnant for a number of years now. If I look at things like my sub growth, which by the way, it doesn't really matter on YouTube sub growth, but content creators like to look at these numbers, and mine's been very stagnant for like at least 2.5 years, which I think is probably a positive thing because considering the environment we've been in, it's probably quite an achievement to stay at that level and not go into a decline. Um, of course, like we can look at things like that's indicative of the amount of content coming to the game, because that I think is directly comparable to player interest. And in this environment we're now in, which I guess we can kind of go back to, if you look at 2016 and the games that were out then, and you look at the games that are out now, it's a totally different landscape, and everything's fighting for attention. And Overwatch is left in the dust. So yeah, I mean the last 3 years have been difficult. I think I don't know, like there's ways you can look at it. Like I hope that what they've been doing is retooling themselves as a team to be a modern development team and to keep up with that cadence of output, because that's what I think dictates player interest. And everything we do, all the awesome content you make, the questionable content I make, and everything else, that's like, it's all dependent on a player base. And if your player base isn't engaged and it isn't growing, then it becomes difficult. Yeah.
We of course had like this event with the drops on Twitch, and I mean the number was pretty sweet, like 1.5 million. Was that something where you were like, okay, no, this is what we should expect still in 2022, or was this something where you're like, oh yeah, the interest is still there?
I think what that was is pent up viewership over 3 years of non-content, suddenly having a massive boatload of content comparatively to what we had packaged as Overwatch 2 brings in the interest of a lot of people. So for it to hit those figures, I think it was it like 1.4 million or something on Twitch concurrent. Amazing figures. Now, will that happen again? This is the issue. Like, so if you go from a desert of content, complete vacuum of content, really. Now, I'm sure Overwatch development team members and people would argue, well, it's not been a vacuum because we've had balance changes, we've had deathmatch maps, we've had maybe we could throw Echo if we go that far back. We had a new hero. We've had probably on paper quite a lot of updates, but they're not really core updates that capture attention. So when they come out with major reworks to Doomfist, major rework to Orisa, a new hero, Sojourn, which of course we've known about for a while. New game mode, again, we've known about for a while, but you can play this 5v5, wholesale balance changes. That does draw the interest, and I think as a player of the game, that makes me excited because I'm like, wow, people are still invested in this game. Because of course, I think I've been able to like sort of chronicle audience interest for the last 6 years or so, and I've seen it be very high, very low, stagnate, and now, literally right now today, as we're recording this video, it is the lowest I have seen it ever. And it's for a number of reasons, right? So, firstly, the game's packaged as Overwatch 2. It doesn't really look like a sequel, so you're confused as that average player. Secondly, the content in there is digested within a week, let's say. Casual viewership would digest the changes, the updates, and stuff within a week. And then they don't have access to the game. So you end up in the situation where you've got content creators making content on the game that not many people have access to, that looks very similar to the existing game, and will go offline, and then you'll be expected to go back to the old game and produce content on that, which players and viewers are not interested. So we've seen I'll be honest, it was a good spike because it was, wow, the beta's here, this is awesome, we're going to check out all the new stuff. I'm seeing, like, honestly, explosive sub growth where Overwatch is concerned. I can tell you right now, I've lost all those subs. Like right now, a few weeks later, those subs are gone. They've gone because they've come in for the content, they've consumed it, they've stayed for a week, they've enjoyed what it was, maybe, and then they've realized that, hey, it's kind of surface level what we've got. Which you know what? It's not surface level, because I'm sure to change the game to 5v5 and to work on all the balance is not a simple task. But it's not an impressive task, is it? I think that's the issue. Yeah, so it's up and down, and it's very down at the moment, like very, very down. I think, if I had to put a figure on it, I'd say the audience drop off is around 70, maybe even 80% in viewership, which is catastrophic.
For sure. Now, do you still remember when you first got hands on, Overwatch 2? What your emotional response to that was?
Yeah, so when I opened the client, I was like, wow, the music is great. It was like, wow, this is really chill. This is cool. Yeah, my first impression, so I played on Colosseo, was the first map I played on. And honestly, I was blown away by the map. It, like, maybe not the way the map plays, but the way the map looked great. It was like, wow, this looks like a modern Overwatch map. This looks awesome. And have you played Yiska? Have you played it? Did you play the beta?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like smoother. It's tighter. It feels a better game. The sound effects are okay, but they're like a lot of changes that they don't blow you away. It's better. It's Overwatch 2.0. This was thrown around all the time. It's not Overwatch 2, it's Overwatch 2.0. Yeah, because it is. It just feels like they've taken what they've got and they've refined it. 5v5, that you can argue about 5v5. It's got pros, it's got cons. You could say, well, 6v6 could have been balanced in certain ways to fix barrier meta and stuff like that. Yeah, okay, great. But they went 5v5. They made the game have more emphasis on individual pop-off ability, which I think is good for the game. But it was like putting on a nice pair of shoes again that fit you quite well. And it's like, oh, this is great, this is fine. It doesn't blow you away, but the changes felt good. And if you're into Overwatch, I think on the whole, most people are positive about the changes. I mean, I put a poll onto my YouTube channel, and it's only my viewers, and I think it's probably got about 50,000 votes on it, and overwhelmingly it was like, yeah, we like the changes. Yeah, I think people like the changes, but I think the thing with Overwatch 2 is it's not about the current player base. They've got to attract players that are playing other games. if they want the game to keep growing and keep, or even start growing again. And when you look at all the contemporaries out there, it's difficult. It's difficult to get those players to come in. But one thing you can do to get those players in is go, hey, you're a Valorant player? Well, guess what? In Overwatch 2, if you play Hitscan or whatever, you're not shooting barriers all game. There was a very, I want to say a famous clip, but I'm not sure it's famous, but it is in my head. It's Shroud playing Overwatch. He's playing on Hollywood. And obviously, Shroud, insane aim. He's in plat because he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't have any game sense. But he's just firing into barriers. And very quickly, he's like, what's the point of this? I don't want to play this game anymore. It's terrible. This isn't the game for me. Overwatch 2, though, that's a game for Shroud. And I think that's what's gone on. I honestly think that is what the main drive is behind 5v5. And at the end of the day, they need to grow their player base. And how do you do that? It's difficult. It really is. But
why do you think then that someone like Shroud didn't stick around playing the alpha to the end of accessibility? Or most streamers didn't, right? Or the viewers didn't stick?
Because I really like the meta on Twitch of large streamers, because they very quickly ride the next traffic wave very, very quickly. So there's like this concept of waves of traffic, right? Which is dead simple to understand. If a game is rising, it's on the wave, you want to get yourself in that, make content. Like this happened in 2016 with Overwatch. Wow. And then it does that for the rest of the time. Another wave comes in with Overwatch 2. All the content creators want to get onto it. On YouTube, some of them were paid to take part in this. Your big YouTube streamers that moved over from Twitch were involved in stuff. So maybe not totally organic on their part. But on Twitch, the majority of it was. The speed at which they then moved to the next game, which I don't even think it was a game. I think it was the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial that became the next meta. But the speed at which they move, that shows you that they are literally the best indicators of where traffic is going and where like the gamers like focus is going. And it's like, it was on Overwatch for 24 hours and then it was gone. I think maybe XQC played the next day a little bit, but would have noticed his viewers are half. I'm not coming back to this. I'm going to play something else. Yeah, so I think like sometimes when we exist in our little Overwatch bubble, I can look and I can think, well, I'm making videos, so I'm not streaming all the time. Although I did stream with my amazing VTuber rig, but I'm making videos, and so I know that I've got 30 video ideas that I know people are going to want to know about the topics of the videos, so I can make those. But streamers don't have that luxury. They are literally there. They're live. They're there at that cutting, bleeding edge of the viewership wave. And it was there for Overwatch, and then it dropped off. And the big question I'd say to you is, why did that happen? And I think that's very easy to answer.
If this is so apparent to you, right?
Yeah.
Have you asked yourself why you're still here? Are you just still a believer in this? Are you pod committed, or are you in some sunk cost fallacy?
You know what, Yiska? Like when I was never the biggest Blizzard fan. I was always like, Blizzard, take games and dumb them down. I played a shitload of EverQuest, right? So when Warcraft came out, this was like a kid's game, World of Warcraft. I'm like, what is this? It's terrible. It's so bad. Blizzard just take the best genres and destroy them. So when I heard they were making an FPS game, I was like, oh no, it's going to be so bad. This is going to be terrible. And I made a video. This must have been 2014, and I was like, this is going to be the worst. This is going to be terrible. Like Blizzard don't know what they're doing. And somebody at Blizzard emails me and they're like, hey, would you like to get access to the alpha and the beta of Overwatch? At first, I thought this is a phishing scam. There's no way Blizzard would email me. Like, what's this? But it was genuine. And so I was like, sure, okay. And then it would have been in 2015. I got access to it, and I played Tracer, and I was like, what is this? Like, this is not what I expected. Like, I didn't think they'd build a game with this level of strategy and mechanical skill requirement. I'm like, oh my God, this looks great. And it just sort of went from there. And it genuinely is the best game I've played ever. Honestly, it genuinely is. Even now, even if I go back to it now, I'll play it and I think I get that feeling of like, you don't get that feeling anywhere else. And it's such a genuinely well-made game. I really enjoy it. But that's why I'm making content now. Well, I'm not. But I don't know. Like, I almost feel like it's the last chance, right? You've got this Overwatch 2, and I want to sort of see it through. I want to see what happens, right? I think I wouldn't be doing myself justice if I stepped away and Overwatch 2 came out. It's almost like I feel like I just want to be there. Whatever happens, I just want to be sort of part of it. Because, this game has been part of my life for like, man, well, it's like 7 years now. I mean, that's a long time. I was in my 20s when I started making content on this. I'm not in my 20s anymore, so it's like, wow. But part of that is maybe it's a bit of Stockholm syndrome as well creeping in, and it's like you can't let go. I don't know, but I do genuinely enjoy the game. So that's probably why I'm still here making content.
You said like you're looking forward to it coming out. I mean, yes, this is a beta, but is there also the strong implication that this can't be it? Like we saw like how much of what you thought Overwatch 2 was going to be did we have access to?
Well, none of it, because Overwatch 2 is PvE. Overwatch 2 would be a major systems upgrade to the game. 5v5 is again, you look at this from the perspective of a casual player. You're taking things away from the game. So now it's not 6v6, it's 5v5. You're changing some heroes completely. So Doomfist is no longer DPS, is a tank. Why? These are like changes which they're not really substantial, tangible changes to warrant the Overwatch 2 acronym. And I don't think I think Overwatch, to be a sequel, I think you need to have. It's a difficult topic, this is, because you always get people coming back. Well, we'll look at FIFA 2020, 2021, 2022. Look at the next Call of Duty. They're effectively always the same game. And it's like, okay, I get that. But I think with Overwatch 2, you had, and with Overwatch, you had this massive period of minimal content. And I think everybody thinks or thought they must have made so much content. There must be a massive, literal tsunami of content which is going to hit us. And then the first viewing of this content we see is not even a year's worth of content if the game was being updated regularly. And it's like, okay, it's a little bit disappointing, but there is stuff here happening. Obviously, as a content creator, you can take solace in the fact that there was high viewership, even though it was very fleeting, it was there. So it does sort of say that if they can keep that cadence going. So imagine if, I mean, this is just, again, complete like wishful thinking, but imagine if the game launched, right? And then it had a bunch of content, and then more content's plugged in every couple of weeks, every 4 weeks, every 3 weeks, there's content, and it never stops. Then you go because there's interest. But we're in this situation of content which is not going to blow anyone away. In fact, I will say that so when you do content planning for new updates and stuff for Overwatch, I thought Sojourn, this was a complete misplay on my part. I thought Sojourn would have been the focus. People would be interested in Sojourn. The first time you get to see gameplay of this hero. Great hero, fun to play. Okay, meta-wise, not the best, but yeah, it's a fun hero. Again, it's classic Blizzard design. It's like a Quake hero. I've got a railgun. This is amazing. But actually, it turned out people wanted to know what has happened to Orisa and Doomfist. It's because people wanted to see the changes to their existing heroes. In a way, it was no different than a balance update or buffs or nerfs to heroes. Whereas I thought people would like to see the new hero, but she wasn't new because we knew about her in 2019. So it's gone. Yeah, imagine if Mauga or something is a new hero and pops up in the next beta. No one will have known about that. So then it will make sense to focus on that. So like the point I'm trying to make is you look at, even I was confused as a content creator thinking what will be the biggest pull? What will people really want to see? And it turns out that they wanted to see hero reworks and okay, then maybe a bit of Sojourn. Then of course you go into the whole thing of like, well, it's a new game mode, which is difficult to show off to people because if they can't actually play it and relate to the game mode, then it's hard to explain how the game mode functions. They can watch videos, but it's not like playing the game. Maps, again, are generally low interest, I would say, in terms of content. Yeah, so I think it just suffered from, it had enough content to keep the interest for a week, and then it needed to continue plugging content in, and it didn't, and it went offline, which was always their intention. They always said this. The intention was to just run it for a set period of time, and that's it. But we've seen massive interest the first couple of days. rapidly dropped off, and then we started going to that like negative cycle, and you start seeing the really like ultra big content creators, people who can like lead like a I don't want to say an industry discussion, but they can lead like a massive discussion. You've got the likes of Donkey, and there was a bunch of other people making videos going, this just looks like Overwatch. Why is it called Overwatch 2? There's not that much content here. So yeah, okay, it's a scam. Off we go, sort of thing. You know, those content creators they don't care about the game. They're not like us. They're not like intrinsically connected to the game in maybe certain ways we shouldn't be. But like, yeah, I don't know. I just like the worst thing for me will be if the next beta phase comes out and it's just a new game mode or we've got some balance changes and there's some new maps or something. It can't be that. They must know it cannot be that. It has to be. It's got to be substantial. It's got to be hero backed by additional major changes. And I don't know. But I mean, I could just rant forever, Yiska, about this. I mean, there's also like little worrying signs when we got into the alpha client. Things like the redesigned hero skins. Why are they not available? What's going on? Like, why is there only some of them made, some of them aren't? You know, I don't know.
What is your gut feeling? Do you think there will be a lot of content coming out in June?
There is, but this might just be blind hope again. Like, I think there has to be. So the danger is they've made a massive splash, and it's like, have they burnt their ammunition? You know, I made a crazy analogy, and I was like, Blizzard are like, you know, they're sitting there with Overwatch. They've got their artillery cannons ready to fire, but they've got no content in the form of shells. They can't fire. They can't do anything. They can't load the content. But then you look at their competitors, and they're constantly like, look at Valorant, look at Apex. They're constantly going for it. And finally, Blizzard were given ammunition and just fired it all at one go. But the ammunition wasn't very good quality. It's like a crazy analogy, this is, but it is good quality and it isn't good quality. It's like, I don't know. Like, I think you've had like the clash of people really wanting Overwatch content, really, really wanting it. They've loved this game. They want the content for it. So the moment the content comes out, they devour it like crazy, and there's huge interest. But a side effect of that is the content was maybe not as good or as much as people wanted. So then they become negative. And now when you turn all this off, the beta goes offline. Let's go back and play Overwatch 1. I'm sure right now they're probably seeing the lowest concurrent figures of player ever. They just have to be. Every metric that I can look at is down for Overwatch, whether it's Overwatch League viewership, whether it's content views on. I mean, hell, what's Twitch on? Probably like 5,000 concurrent viewers or something. It's like, you know, Twitch isn't the be all and end all of deciding where a game's like player base is. Because look at Minecraft, you know, that's not that popular on Twitch, and it's the biggest viewed game there is on YouTube by an absolute mile. But yeah, my worry is you've burnt all of your sort of marketing ammunition on your Overwatch 2, and then you're going to do this again, and then they're going to try and do it again. I don't know how many of these beta phases there'll be. You can't keep doing that, right? Like, I will be watching the viewership of the next beta like a hawk, because that'll be an amazing indicator as to how people are perceiving this game now. And the only people that can fix this is Blizzard themselves. Like it doesn't matter what content creators do. It doesn't matter what the community does or anything like that. None of that matters. What matters is what they do with the game next. And I don't know. Like, do you have faith in them? Do you think they can change it, make an impact?
It really depends how much backlog they had, as you said, or how much ammunition, you know. And
yeah.
It is hard to estimate. I will say, okay, let me run this by you. Do you think the quality that Blizzard is still delivering to us, for instance, with the alpha, justifies the quantity that we get?
I think, well, okay, so I think what they gave us with the alpha and the beta probably isn't what they wanted to give us. I can't imagine, because we had discussions where they wouldn't let us. So this is actually kind of funny. They wouldn't let us show the UI in Overwatch 2 alpha footage that was captured. Of course, all of the footage we were capturing for the beta NDA was alpha footage, but it's the same client. You know, there was minimal changes between. In fact, I think there was no changes in between. Oh no, the scoreboard would have been the only change, and then they did the balance changes after. But they did not want us to show the tab screen. So this was funny to me because I'm like, guys, I'm pressing tab every 5 seconds in the game. You know, like I have to. It's going to be there, and they're like, the reason they didn't want it because it wasn't finished. There were slight errors with it. The player portraits sometimes wouldn't show the actual, the icon for the players and stuff. So I don't like. I think there was some signals coming out that this is not something they really wanted out there for public consumption, but there's pressures on them to get something out there because maybe time's starting to catch up with them, and I think that's probably Overwatch League catching up with them because I think back in November when we had the stuff coming out of Overwatch League. Season 5 will be on Overwatch 2. There's a deadline there. And I think immediately everyone was like, well, if you can't play the game, no one's going to watch an esport where you can't play the game. That's crazy. Like, what's that about? And so I think there's a rush there to get something out, which was obviously playable for Overwatch League, which must have been the main push. But then maybe we can profit off this as well with a bit of goodwill for the community because we're going to let them play it. But I can't. In terms of the quality of the content, I think you can see things that were like I think that so whatever you say about the sound design in the game now, it's still been built. Can I say it's a higher quality? I think it is. The sound effects sound better. Whether they're more readable, I don't know. That's highly debatable. I don't think it is. But again, that could be years and years of like sunken cost fallacy, and we've been listening to the sound effects for years and years. So we know what they're like in Overwatch. And again, you can come back around to the whole thing of why even change them in the first place. But on a technical level, okay, they're better. The engine itself on a technical level, okay, it's better. But these are like these are not like marquee updates or changes to the game. You know, this doesn't draw players back to the game. You know, if you were an Overwatch player, I consistently get people sending me messages going, actually, no. The best thing is if I comment on a YouTube video while I'm logged into Stylosa, obviously it has a little tick next to it. People can see who I am. People will reply, even if it's just not even a gaming video. Maybe it's a mountain biking video or something. I don't know. People will reply to it. Oh, wow, cool. I used to watch your videos in 2017. And I'm like, oh, cool, nice. That's the last time they played Overwatch, you know? Or 2018, maybe. Because they come back to the game now. It's the same. There's no difference. Like they need to have a big, like some way of pulling. I guess what I'm saying is lapsed players for Overwatch don't really see much difference in what is in the game at the moment in the beta content. Maybe there's ways of like sexing that up a bit where they can drop an animated short or something, or some sort of whatever happens. Which actually there's no animated short for Sojourn. I don't know whether you noticed that, but she has a I forget what they call them, sort of like a backstory sort of animated video, but there's no animated short for her. Normally, there's there'll be some full on push. So what's gone on there? Is that an example of sort of reducing the quality? I mean, I could be overly harsh and say if you look at the live game now and you look at the remix events. They're just recoloring skins. That's not particularly time intensive, but that's because they're working on Overwatch 2. So they're not. Why invest in Overwatch if the game's not growing?
Do you think they expected a different reception from the community?
Yeah. I think they did. I think they got the reception they wanted from the community, but I think they didn't realize what would then come after that reception. Overwhelmingly, from the content creators, from me. I mean, hell, I was sending messages to the devs. I was like, this is sick. This is so much better than 6v6. I'm really enjoying this. I was playing Anna, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. Like, I had Who Are You was playing Doomfist against me, and I've slept him, and I'm teabagging him. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Oh, this is amazing. But it was really cool. I felt like, oh my God, I'm like, it's hyper. It's so good. But I knew that after playing it Christ, I must have played it for like 13 hours or something the first day, solid. It was just game after game. The quality of the games is amazing because obviously everyone's playing to win, everyone's treating the game seriously and whatever. But you could see that, it just felt like Overwatch, right? It was that same feeling of playing Overwatch when Overwatch was like at its peak. which is a great feeling. But you could also see that after that, the questions will start coming. Where's the content? Where's the updates? Where do we go from here? What's going to happen? When's the beta going to be turned off? Why are you turning it off? Can't you leave it live? It's still live for the pro players. Blah, blah, blah. Are you going to do this change? We think this hero's broken. Mercy needs looking at. What the hell have you done to Mercy's Guardian Angel now? It's absolutely crazy. Is that going to stay in the game? You know, all of these questions start, you know, survivability of supports was something that went straight in. Straight away, it was like, right, supports seem to be not that survivable. So what's going to happen? Because basically, I think they increased the heal per second of the self heal. In this was in the alpha, by the way, not the beta, because that's when there was most of the conversation going back and forward with the development teams and stuff. But I guess what I'm getting at is you could see there was a really positive reaction, which I think the devs knew they would get because they knew what they built is a better Overwatch experience. It's not an Overwatch 2 experience, but it's a better, more refined. It's like, wow, this feels way better. But then it's what comes after that. And it happened within a few days. It was like, there's not really that much to talk about here, guys. You know, we can look at Sojourn. We can mess around with the hero reworks. We can start looking at, you know, some very early simplistic metas for 5v5, which of course is pointless for content creators. I mean, obviously simultaneous to this, they're interacting with Overwatch League pros and they're giving some very direct feedback about what's been going on with the game and how 5v5 works, especially push. I mean, shit, we were laughing about push earlier on. Oh, I was talking to Avril on Twitter about it, and Avril was one of the main proponents of the state of push and how bad it was, because you could see you get 80 meters and that's it, the game's over. It's like, guys, you can see this. How long has it been in development for? So there was worries starting to sort of creep through. You know, how could that have been missed? Yeah, I don't know, but like the issue they've got, I think, is a communication issue, and I think Blizzard have committed, or I think they've identified this, and they've tried to resolve it, and have not been very successful at this. So they've tried to increase communication with the community, but they've done it in very sort of they've done it in ways where it doesn't really resonate with the community. So they tried a bunch of streams. They had John Spector, Aaron Keller, and Zoe did a stream, I remember, and it was universally panned. They did a bunch of other streams as well, and they're kind of not. They're trying to talk to the community, but they're not really talking to the community. They're not really explaining the direction and where they're going with the game. They're not really like actively engaging with them in a way that makes the community sort of feel, I don't know, maybe positive about the game long term. Now the question is, does this even matter? Like I said to you, Yiska, in this chat, I mean, they're not designing a game for us. I don't think they're designing a game for us because they cannot afford to design a game for us. They need to design a game for a new audience, and so there are things they need to do. So like what like basically, what is it worth their time to interact with us when they know we'll be back for beta phase 2? They'll know we'll be back for beta phase 3, 4, 5, whatever, and they know we'll be back for launch. So it doesn't really matter what we're doing right now. It doesn't matter if we're kicking up a fuss because we think this or we think that. It doesn't matter if there's a bunch of other people in the wider gaming content community all making negative content on the game, because they've still got these beats they can still hit. They've still got a launch, which then that's when it matters, because that's when the game, I presume, will start generating revenue. Because of course the big thing with Overwatch is, where's its revenue? I mean, it sold box copies. It had loot box sales, which I think were reported at about 1.5 billion. And then Overwatch League. But Call of Duty makes 1.5 billion a year off in-game monetization. And I'm not saying that's good or a bad thing, but it allows them to keep developing the game, which I guess is what Overwatch needs.
Right. What do you think? Because you said, like, maybe it doesn't matter. At the same time, it seems to me that the devs, to some degree, thought it does. How the more hardcore community that's established and around things, because they sort of set the tone around it, which is why you were appealed to in some sense with these creator meetings, right? So, does it matter or does it not matter?
This is going to sound really cold, but content creators are just a marketing division for games. They're a marketing arm that's not controlled by the publisher, but the publisher can interact with them in a way to basically make them happy. So the way to make a content creator happy is to give them content, right? And they'll go away and make content. What a shock that is. Blizzard very clearly seem to not have a lot of content for Overwatch 2, so they're trying other ways of making the content creator happy. Now, it is, it's in your interest if content creators make positive content on your game, because ultimately that means that people will be more positive about your game, and ultimately they'll probably spend money on your game. So it makes sense to have a division of whoever it is, 3, 4, 5, 6 people just dedicated to that on any game. You know, I've said to you, Yiska, before about Riot and EA. They have entire huge divisions, teams, everything built around this because they know how powerful it is. Keeping content creators happy, I don't think that should be something the devs should really care about. Like, stuff the content creators, the devs get on and make the game. But, if you work on something and someone is critical of what you've produced, then I think it's natural that you take that to heart. And in some ways, that could affect development of the game. And so maybe it makes sense that you do have people, influencer teams and stuff like that, who are there to try and prevent that negative sentiment being built up. I think with Overwatch, we had this. I always go on about a negative feedback loop, and it was because we were not getting content. And YouTube, and this is specifically YouTube focused rather than streaming, it's insidious. Like, it loves drama. So if you're negative, like, I remember when Jeff left, I was like, I can't believe this. So I made a video and I'm like, I can't believe this, terrible. Hundreds of thousands of views. And then I'm like, right, I know where this is going. People now want to know why Jeff left. They want to know what's led up to this. They don't care about the game no more. And I look around at various other YouTubers and I see they're just making all these videos like, Jeff was the problem, Jeff is this, Jeff is that. And I'm like, these videos are trash. They can't be true. They're just complete hearsay, it's speculatory, but it's drama negative content. And when you start getting in that cycle, you're away from the more positive aspect of the game. I think Overwatch is like a unique game in the sense of, like, everyone seems to be negative about the game, and I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because just saying there's no content is like such a crap thing to say, but there's no, like, it's like there's no content support. There's no, like, reason for people to start investing into the game, sort of thing. And so you end up with content creators going down a path of, like, I could make a video and it would be like, the subject of the video could be why the Overwatch 2 beta failed. I don't want to make that video, but I can guarantee you people would watch that video. They wouldn't watch why the Overwatch 2 beta was awesome. And it's because there is this negative sentiment going around, which isn't really helped by the way Blizzard and Activision manage the game.
You said earlier that a big issue is also the communication and how they have structured that. Is it a problem of communication, or can they not communicate the more content because they don't have it?
Well, that's the $1 million question. They either don't have the content or they do, and for whatever reason they're not allowed to talk about the content, or as I said, they just don't have the content. I don't know. That, I think we'll find out when the next beta phase rolls out, because the amount of content in that will, I think, give us a good indicator as to where they're going with this game, and what they have. Again, there's ways of getting around that. They can say, like, this is beta phase 2 and we're specifically targeting some aspect of the game, or we're going to specifically do this or do that. And maybe they don't. Like, I think I think the thing was the key drops. So I reckon somebody at Blizzard looked at Riot and pissed their pants and was like, oh my God, look at what Valorant has done. We need to do this. We can get massive viewership and we can be like, holy shit, the game has got crazy viewership. It's going to be awesome. The thing with Valorant is, though, they did it with a completely new game with a shitload of content that was supported by absolutely every content creator. I mean, I was streaming that. Everybody was on that. And it was extremely well executed. And it was at the height of COVID as well. So you've got everybody's at home. It was just absolutely excellently. It was almost like it was expertly deployed. Then we fast forward to now and you see similar attempts by Blizzard. Like, okay, we can do a drops campaign. This will get a ton of views. People want Overwatch 2. But it's almost like drop bait in a way. So they're like, hey, it's Overwatch 2. Come and get the game. It's going to be awesome. And people sit there. They have to watch 4 hours of a stream, and they do it, and they get a drop. But in those 4 hours, they're like, this looks awfully familiar. They're playing Ilios. They're playing, I think King's Row was in it, right? They're playing Route 66. They've just changed the time of day on these maps. This seems very superficial. The heroes, they look the same. Oh, it's 5v5. Oh, there's only one new hero. But people are not really playing that hero. This looks like Overwatch. So I think drop bait is actually quite a good description of that. But yeah, if they do drops for Beta 2, I think if they don't do drops, then we'll know that they're stepping away from making a fuss each phase, and then that'll be the end of it. Maybe they just give access out to people. You would hope that the logical thing in my mind would be every beta phase you'd want to increase the player base, so you will have some sort of drops integration or something going on, or you just give loads of people access. I don't know, because surely that would aid with feedback. It would aid with server stress testing, all of that stuff. But yeah, I think a lot resides on what is going to happen in the next beta phase. But again, like I said, all of this could be a completely moot point, because if they've come to the decision that they don't care what's happening with the game right now, and they don't care what's happening with Overwatch, don't get me wrong there. They have not cared what's been happening with that game for a long, long time, because they've all been focused on Overwatch 2. If they don't make a fuss, well, basically, if it doesn't matter what they do right now, they've made a massive. Man, you're scared. They needed that 1.4 million people when the game launched. Yeah, not in a beta phase that had minimal content and looked very similar to what's come before. And they need that again whenever the game launches. You would hope is this year. Can they do that? Because this is kind of like a bit behind the scenes kind of stuff, and I guess you do this as well. But when you plan for content, I like to look at what am I going to make this week? What am I focusing on? Well, a lot of bread and butter content for me would have been my overanalyzed or various spectating entertainment coaching series and stuff. They depend on having a replay viewer, which is not available in Overwatch 2, but they depend on players submitting their replays. They cannot do that for Overwatch 2. And what has happened is Blizzard have turned the knob on Overwatch 2 now as the main SEO, the main keyword, the main thing out there. So you cannot go back to Overwatch. So you're like, okay, I now cannot make really any of my main series because nobody will watch them. They want Overwatch 2 content. The Overwatch 2 content has to be coverage of updates and news, but there is none. So it's very weird. And I think for me, I'm in a special kind of a unique position because I've done this for so long. I could step away today and I could retire after this call, and I might do. And I'm just like, right, that's it. I'm gone. I've had enough of this, and I can do that. But when I look at up and coming content creators, and I see them, making really, really good content. People like Somju, Get Quaked On. I'm talking up and not established content creators, not content creators like CarQ and people like that. No, I'm talking about people who are up and coming. I look at them and I think you should play another game. But I know why they're playing Overwatch, because they love the game. But I'm seeing that it's so hard. But for me, I'm like I said, I've done it for so long. I'm just I'm like the jaded old man who's just sitting here and it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe we're all idiots for believing in the game as much. But I still think they've got something. Because there's nothing like this game. I think that's the main thing with Overwatch. There is nothing like this game. Yeah, you can say Team Fortress 2, but that's not. That's nothing like it.
You talked about the SEO trap, and a lot of it is maybe a framing issue. That sounds like you believe this is calling this what we got Overwatch 2 is a problem, right? Because, for instance, in China, because of how the IP approval works there, they just found a solution and called it Overwatch either Rebirth or Return, and therefore avoided the two. Do you think that would have been preferable for us as well?
Yeah, I think obviously in China there's the issue with registering new games, so you can't. I don't think any of the regulatory boards would approve any games or whatnot was going on. But I think as well, it's like a contractual thing. If they've got agreements in place for Overwatch 2, I think like Lego is an example. If Lego are making Overwatch 2 kits, then it has to be called Overwatch 2. I think calling something Overwatch 2 isn't inherently bad, but it depends on it actually being a worthy sequel to the game and not what is in essence an expansion pack to the game. But the great madness of all of this is the Overwatch 2 that we were sold on the beta was an update to PvP, which is the existing Overwatch game. It doesn't contain any of the PvE. I think we'd be having a very different conversation if they launched a PvE beta and it had tons of new stuff because all of that would be new. That is not in the game. People would be like, wow, Overwatch 2, I get it, okay. But it's not. They are packaging the PvP element, which is Overwatch, as Overwatch 2, which is a fundamental misleading of players, really, because they look at it and go, As I said, I think Overwatch 2's PvP it gets so confusing talking about it. But Overwatch 2's PvP going 5v5 is an attempt to bring players in who don't play the game, but is also, you could say, an attempt to make it different from what we've already got. But I do like what you said about rebirth or reborn or something like that. Because what we are looking at is a recommitment to the development of new content for PvP. And I think we had a Overwatch development team that was not designed to do that. And I think we are starting to see the very early signs of a development team that could be capable of doing that. But I think we will get a lot more stronger signs on that during these next beta phases in terms of the actual content we see in them, because they will obviously lead up to whatever the launch of this game will be. And we already know they've split PvE and PvP. So who knows what's going on with PvP? I mean, it's probably in some horrific development hell. So they want to get something out. So you would hope, because they're making noise about it, we will see it this year at some point. Of course, Overwatch League cannot go back now. Can you imagine the world where they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, we need to change back to"? I mean, it just will never happen. It can't happen. But again, we're in an issue. We've got a problem with Overwatch League right now. I tuned into the APAC broadcast today, and the viewership was the lowest I've ever seen it for that. And they're playing a game no one's got access to. Hey, I've played it, so I can watch it and I can relate to what's going on. And I just watch loads of Overwatch anyway, so whatever. I'm like a terrible example for that, but it's suffering because people don't have access to the game. It's crazy, but like that cannot be a development decision. It can't be. That is a decision of the same people that decided to call the game Overwatch 2. It's got to be because Modern Warfare 2 is coming out. Well, yeah, Modern Warfare 1, Modern Warfare 2. It works for Call of Duty. It works when you've got every year you're releasing a new game. Overwatch, I've never viewed it. I mean, I viewed it like World of Warcraft. You would not get WoW 2. Like that would just what the hell? That is not going to happen. They tried it with Titan, I suppose, and realized no, it's stupid. We're not doing it. So why have we got Overwatch 2? I don't know. But maybe you could say, look at Destiny. You've got Destiny 2, and that's arguably the same thing. Although, they obviously added a lot of content into Destiny 2 at that time. Or at least I think they did. Oh no, I don't know too much about Destiny. I can't talk about it, but yeah, it's a communication problem, like on every level, really. But I don't know. Like I would like to know, like in the future, if like some whistleblower comes out, just gives us the complete inside story as to how the hell this happened. Because man, I can't get my head around it. I know nothing. I know nothing about game development and all of that stuff. So, man.
I'm going to ask you to do the possible, because you were pretty vocal on Twitter saying like it's unreal that the beta has been taken down. Right?
Yeah.
Like it should have been at least kept up, right? What is your most charitable interpretation as to why this didn't happen?
I don't know. So resources. Let's say it's got to be resources. So if they want to keep an environment active, which had, I don't know how many players were in the beta. Let's just make up a figure. Let's say 200,000 players or something. I don't know. They want to keep that active. That's going to require monitoring. They can't just leave it there. That people need to monitor that, and maybe those guys are working on the next build. Maybe they're working on other changes to server infrastructure. I don't know. That's the only charitable excuse I can give, because the elephant in the room is Overwatch League still has access to this build now. While it is restricted in numbers of players and it's on a different environment, it's effectively the same thing. And I think, if I want to be selfish and you want to help content creators out, yeah, you keep that live and you very slowly keep adding players to it, and you use that to stress test the game. We know the way they develop this game. We know that the engine they've got is, I guess, pretty much ready to go, and they're just plugging content into it now. That's probably a very simplistic view of it, and they're obviously still working on stuff. But I don't know why they would. It's almost like they tease you with the access, and then they pull it away. But again, you can be very cynical, and you can look at this and go, the viewership was already tanking. The beta was active, and the viewership was gone. So keeping it live, what does that do? That just serves to leave it live. And in fact, maybe actually my most charitable explanation for that would be, I hate this phrase, but like the optics of it. Because if they're leaving it there and it's just declined, that's not great. You want to pump the numbers back up again. And how do you do that? Well, let's take it offline, and then let's come back again, and let's go for another big hit. Maybe that's all it is. I don't know. But it's a very, very weird way of managing a game, because they have a very strong word, but they've eviscerated the content creator base for the game in a way that is, I don't know, is it recoverable? I don't know. It might be, because like I said, people are very flippant now. They'll just jump to the next thing. Overwatch 2 comes out and it pops off. You'll see all the big streamers back on the game again, like nothing's happened. You'll see content creators flooding back to the game like nothing's happened. So my worry is you just get like all of the sort of upcoming talent, they get sort of tempted away by your Apex Legends, your Valorants of this world, and they don't come back. And then you've almost got like a bit of a brain drain on the go there with innovative content. Even Yiska, like the content that you make, which is extremely like high level content, is going to suffer, because why don't you go and cover another game? But we're stupid because we just like Overwatch. But that's the thing, if you get really down to it and you start looking at what's been going on, it is frustrating.
Do you think that, from what you know and how you perceive audiences, and of course you've proven to be able to understand how the Overwatch audience functions, do you think there is something towards this, pump attention or like, hype through artificial scarcity, and then, come again at the next juncture? Or do you think it would be preferable to just like have the slow trickle and just like every week we're revealing one system, maybe then eventually we lead up to a hero announcement, which I assume is one of the better content announcements you can make?
Yeah.
What is the best strategy?
So I think the best strategy would have been to, it's all with the power of hindsight. The best strategy would have been to very quickly revert the decision to abandon Overwatch, and they should have started plugging content into Overwatch. Now, there's got to be reasons why they didn't do this, and it's definitely the 5v5 switch and the engine upgrade, because you can't just do that in Overwatch, obviously, because of the way the game's built. But if I could go back in time, that's what I would have liked. And then we see the game picking up momentum, organic momentum, not false, fake, key drop campaign stuff, like actual strong organic growth coming back to the game. Apex Legends did this. They launched, they had a massive launch out of nowhere, gamble by them to do that with no marketing or anything like that. But then they very slowly started ramping up content production. Look at them now. They've just broke their concurrent viewership figures on Steam, or concurrent players. To come out the gates with a massive drop campaign for a limited beta is very risky, and I think has been proven to show that was not the play, because you have had massive positive response, and then within a few days, within a week, if we're being generous, you've lost it all. And you've actually ended up with a negative response because people going, well, as we've covered, this doesn't look like a sequel, blah 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 blah, blah and all of that. So I think in an ideal world, I would have liked the game to have been supported fully in its PvP mode. In fact, I think I know Yiska why it wasn't, because we only learned until recently that they've split PvP and PvE, so they were together. So maybe it was just PvE dragging it down for all this time, and they wanted to launch it all together, and they didn't. But the interest we've seen for the first beta, we needed that when the game went live. And can they do that when the game goes live now? Because they've already burnt that. That's the problem. Like they've basically created a massive. They've put like a magnifying glass. They've amplified something, which, like I said, was drop bait. It's not a sequel, and it is not enough to keep people. To keep the conversation of Overwatch in people's gaming minds. It's just not there. It's like, okay, we need more. And I don't know whether they can do that again. But then, we could just be sitting here and they actually do pull it off with the launch of the game.
Have you, from all you know, is there something positive in terms of like, do you think they can pull it off and become like this live service game that actually... Can Blizzard arrive in 2022 alongside other developers like Epic, like Riot?
Well, they've got a great game. This is the thing. They have a really good game. So, people talk about management being the issue. And I think like it must be. I don't know. I can't see a world where developers are preventing a game. Developers are gamers. Like they know what. Well, they obviously know what people like, but I just can't. Oh man, I don't know. Like I think, yeah, it definitely can. You have got an underlying product which is very good, very unique, and very fun to play. And even going back to the way Overwatch was designed originally, very accessible shooter game with characters that don't even shoot, so it pulls people in from all walks of life. This isn't CS:GO. It isn't just males 20 plus who are playing the game. No, it's not. It's everybody plays Overwatch. And it had that sort of wider appeal. It became cultural phenomenon is a bit of a stretch, but it was in pop culture for a while. It was replaced by Fortnite, but it was in pop culture. So it is a strong IP. It's a strong game. I think the truth will be in if what they launch with is enough to differentiate it from what we've already played. As I said a while ago, if you've played Overwatch and then you stop playing in 2017, is this different enough for you when it launches? They need to make it different enough, and that's what I think it'll all depend on. But again, we don't know what their planning is. Their planning could be PvE is the proper launch. So whatever they're doing now is just messing about with PvP. And if PvP comes out this year and it just trucks along and it's doing okay and they're just dropping updates into it, we've seen leaks for battle passes and stuff like that. Yeah, okay, great. So then it starts getting content. And then whenever Overwatch 2 PvE drops, then they have a massive sort of second coming of the game again. I mean, it's doable. I don't think it's a lost hope. I just think it's just frustrating for us. That's the problem. It's just really frustrating for us when you're so involved in the game, and it's almost it's like we've been made redundant, and we don't want to be made redundant. But it's almost like Blizzard is saying, like, "Hey, why don't you go away and just make content on a different game?" And to me, that seems crazy. But it's like I said, it's not just about content creators; it's about player interest. And if you've got player interest, then I think all of it just adds together. It's like the underlying thing that you need. And to get that, you got to keep updating your game. You got to keep reinventing. It's not reinventing the wheel, but you got to keep the content coming. And they're kind of, well, they've never been able to do that. And so that's why I'm a little bit skeptical, because if we're asking Blizzard to turn into Epic or something else, there is going to be a cost to that. There will be a cost in quality. There'll be a cost in things we probably can't even predict. Can they do that? Do they need to do that? Are they doing that? I don't know. It's too many questions. Too many questions.
I'm going to hit you with I want to see you play with that idea, and it's probably inflammatory for a sizable chunk of the Valorant audience. But I'm going to go ahead and say I'm pretty confident this is true. I think Overwatch has vastly more content than Valorant at this point.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is actually an audience doesn't care about the amount of content accessible at any given point.
Yeah.
It is about the trajectory of a product that it's taking. And everyone really is into the enjoyment and development and being part of that journey more so than what is now.
It's a living entity. That's the difference. You people want to be part of something that's growing and that is pushing forward. That's got momentum. Overwatch doesn't have momentum, and it had a load of momentum, then hit a brick wall, and it's just now we're sitting here waiting for it to get moving again. Yeah, I would agree. Like Overwatch has a ton of content in it for what it is. I mean, it's completely crazy in the modern gaming world that they were giving us 7, 8 legendary skins for free, basically. You know, if you just played the game. Valorant are selling you a skin for like $40. You know, it's like they are getting hammered in that department. Gamers are getting hammered in that department because the cost of things is ridiculous. But Valorant, you know, and this is no sort of slight to Valorant, but I think a lot of their content, their skin content, is garbage. I think it's terrible. I look at it and I'm like, this looks like baby's first 3D model or something for a weapon. I'm like, what the hell is this? But it doesn't matter because you know next week there'll be another one. There'll be another, and it's like, you know, in fact, on the evidence for my own stupidity here. So the most recent Valorant skin pack is like underwater themed. There's like a fish tank in the weapons. It looks great. It's like, oh my God, that looks amazing. But some of their other stuff looks absolutely terrible. But Blizzard has always had that, oh yeah, these skins look really good. I mean, it's difficult to come out and go, that legendary skin is terrible in Overwatch because it generally isn't terrible. You might not like it, but you can appreciate its quality level. I remember there was a discussion with Zarya Totally 80s, which I think is amazing, that skin. But people were like, this looks terrible. I don't like this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is great. She looks like an 80s sort of fitness instructor. It looks amazing. You know, so I think the quality is definitely there for Blizzard. But I think Apex, we can throw Apex into the Valorant argument as well. I don't think their skins are particularly great. Some of them are, but not, you know, the majority of them are not. You know, you look at things like battle passes have a lot of content, which is crap. No one cares about the content in a battle pass, but it's a progression, isn't it? It's getting the levels. It's pushing towards, I'm going to complete this seasonal battle pass before the season ends. You know, we've always had the issue in Overwatch of what's the point of competitive seasons? There's never been any point to them. Okay, if you get top 500, you can get your animated spray. Then they just roll into the next season and the next season and the next season and it's there's no, you know, I'd expect this to change for Overwatch 2 because they'd be crazy if they carried on. I mean, it has to change. But like you're making fusses around big updates to the game that makes sense to the player base, that keep the momentum moving forward, that keep the players engaged, that keep them feeling like they're part of this living entity, that keep them wanting to, as I say, get engagement is the key. You know, why would, so one really interesting question is if you ask this to, well, why would you play Overwatch now? Why would anyone play Overwatch now? Why would you come into Overwatch as a new player? Does that even happen anymore? The barrier to entry, well, you've got to buy the game to begin with. Okay, it's not that expensive anymore. But there's a barrier of entry there. Your friends are not playing this game. That's the other problem. And especially younger people who would be coming into the game. Because, you know, this is completely speculatory garbage, but if you're playing Fortnite, you're of a certain age group, most likely. So if you're 12, 13, 14, then you start getting maybe a bit serious, 15, and you're like, okay, what am I going to play? Well, I know when I was 15, I was playing Counter-Strike. I was playing Day of Defeat, then I started playing Counter-Strike because I played Half-Life. Well, I played Team Fortress 1. And then obviously, you know, it goes through that. But you progress. And what's the progression now? It's maybe you go to Fortnite, you might go to Apex, you might go to Warzone. Are these players going into Overwatch? Is there a reason for them to go into Overwatch? There's not at the moment. But if the game's free to play, if the game's got battle passes and all of that crap into it, then it becomes a competitor and it's a very different offering to them. It's not just a general shooter game. It's not a tactical shooter. So that it becomes it's cheesy again to say, but I think Overwatch has got a unique selling point and it's very strong. But it just doesn't. It's like it doesn't know what to do with itself. It's got an embarrassment of riches and it never really uses them correctly. And it just kind of serves to push away people that there'll come a point where will this be recoverable, and that's the danger. I don't know. I just hope the game. The game will never die. Like people when they say the game will die, I think it's madness. I don't think it will. But maybe it becomes a game that people are not really playing as their sort of main game. They just sort of drop in every now and again, or they drop in around a major update and then they come back, which I'm sure was happening already. I think people generally came back for seasonal events just to check the skins, and then they'd leave.
Isn't making this game free to play and just slapping a battle pass system on the easiest way to fix this current situation?
Yeah, but so that's I think I mean Overwatch launched with the best loot box. Now they were cheeky because they sold you the game and had microtransactions in, which at the time was cardinal sin. That is like, what is this? Then very quickly after that, they increased the drop rate of items in the loot box. They made the loot boxes easier to acquire just through playing the game. Yada yada yada. They did the typical Blizzard thing of they took what was the accepted monetization at the time and made the best version of it. However, it lasted for a year before it was completely replaced by the Fortnite style system. So you had seasonal battle passes and you had a store where you could directly buy whatever you wanted. Now, this is obviously, for us being in Europe, this has a lot of pros because you get rid of the random gambling aspect for various age groups. So Blizzard can't really have random gambling. I think Belgium have banned it, haven't they? And maybe Netherlands have banned it as well. I don't know. But, this is something that's on its way out. So they need to sort that out. But what I'm saying is they got replaced through innovation. And we're not seeing innovation off them really, and we never really have off Blizzard. We do. We see innovation through refinement, I think, off Blizzard products. But when we look at Overwatch 2, the fastest way to fix it in terms of let's make money is you go free to play, you get a battle pass, you get a store, and you get all of that stuff plugged into the game. But they would have known this for years. If that was the way they was going to take the game, why didn't that happen in 2018? Apex Legends came out in 2019. Valorant a year later, so it's something they could have changed. I'm sure they could have changed it. When the dollar bills are getting flashed, the pressure will be there to change it. So, maybe they were trying to innovate. Think about the way Overwatch 2 was announced with it. Nobody really understood what Jeff was saying on the stage. It's like, it's a sequel, but you get it for free if you own the game. And it's like, what's going on here? Like, it's not a sequel then, is it? It's just an update to the game. And it's all of this. So, you try and read between the lines and think maybe that was an attempt to sort of innovate with a sequel that obviously hasn't worked. And so, maybe we do see just we go into the world, as you say, of the easy fix and we get the battle pass, we get the whatever the hell else is added to the game. Whether people like that or not, I don't know. I can be quite selfish about that and say, well, that'll be good for me because it'll mean the game will get updated a lot because I'll have to update it, and it'll be good for the game because more people will come because there'll be more updates. But then it is always at the cost of something because we've seen this with Apex, we've seen it with Valorant, and there's no way the devs at those companies are bad at what they do, but they are forced to release things that are not great. And every now and again, you get something that's great. So, maybe we go into that with Overwatch. And is that a bad thing for Overwatch? I don't know. Maybe that's just a sign of the times.
Sure. Now, maybe a topic switch here. Many people will remember that you were actively involved at the highest level of esports in Overwatch for a while. You were called, I believe, the British consultant for the London Spitfire.
Yeah, I came up with that, yeah. Yeah.
And, of course, with Seven Lions, with the World Cup team and whatnot. Is there something within the Overwatch League ecosystem where you think, okay, I understand that you're trying to draw blood from a stone here, but you could definitely be doing this better.
Yeah, I think Overwatch League is a very complicated subject. So, like, I was a British consultant, which was basically I was like the cheerleader for the team, but I ended up doing a lot of stuff which wasn't really which people never ever really know about, but it's like more behind the scenes stuff to do with like the way the team was like nothing to do with the team strategically or anything like that, obviously. But like it was all kinds of stuff. It was mainly like marketing stuff. I would um categorize it as. But I think like Overwatch League, like the biggest issue I've got with Overwatch League is it doesn't draw the average player into it. And when I look at what Blizzard do in terms of trying to get people to shift from being a casual player to an esports viewer, it's a very difficult thing to do because there's a whole like ladder or pyramid you have to go through for this. So you've got you've got interest in Overwatch, you play the game. Now, if you watch any content on Overwatch, you are a hardcore fan of the game. Even if it's a meme video or something, a TikTok, anything, you're starting to become interested in the game beyond just mindlessly playing the game. So you're on the first rung of the ladder. And then the next one will be, well, I'm a McCree player. I want to find a McCree guide. So you start looking for guides. I'm going to watch the best McCree streamer I can find. Then you learn, oh, McCree's a hit scan player. So I'm going to watch a pro hit scan player. I want to find their content. Who is the best pro? Oh, I've found competitive Overwatch on Reddit. Whoa, they're talking about Kai. I'm going to watch Kai. Oh my God. Then I'm watching, I don't think he streams, but if he did, I was watching his stream. But now I'm a fan of Atlanta. Now, the problem with that is that never happens. And the game doesn't really assist with that in any way. When you play Overwatch, there is really nothing in the game to tempt you into watching it. Yes, it flashes red on the menu screen. It's like, oh, Overwatch League Live. No one cares. The cosmetics for Overwatch League are not great and could have been a lot better. And they weren't. Just simple recolors. Okay, calling them simple is kind of not fair, but nice recolors in like I love Soul Dynasty. I love London Spitfire. But like oh well, I've got quite a lot of the old Mayhem skins because I got a load of League tokens. I used to get a ton of them, and I was just buying all the skins, man. But yeah, they don't really inspire. Like basically, they're going against the legendary skins that are in the game anyway for events, and they are way better, way more engaging. They just look awesome. And then it's like, wait a minute, we've just got a skin recolor, and you can see they know this or they knew this because they start releasing the skins for the cups, and it's like, wow, look at this, or the MVP skins when they release those. So they did sort of start realizing that might bring players who are casual through a cosmetic attachment to maybe go, okay, I've bought the I think it was Doomfist, right? Did Shock have a Doomfist skin? I bought the Shock skin. Wow, who are these Shock? What are they? I want to maybe watch some of their games, and then maybe you become a fan. But there's just tons of issues with Overwatch. I think with Overwatch League, there's loads of problems with like team monetization beyond trying to sell ticket events, tickets to events. There's not the in-game. Again, it's cosmetics. The in-game cosmetics system is not fleshed out enough to say, "Oh my God, I want London Spitfire everything." There just isn't. There's a skin and a spray, and that's it. That's the extent of my expenditure as a fan. Or I can buy a skin for every hero. But we know people play one hero or two. They don't play every hero. So again, it's like, well, that's not really needed. They needed ways of customizing individual heroes, whether that was weapon skins, whether that was adornments on the weapons, key rings, whatever. There's tons of things they could do, and I hope this gets implemented for Overwatch too. And maybe it will. Maybe this is why the teams are all hanging around. Maybe they know. Maybe they're like, yeah, we're going to get all these monetization options. But yeah, so I think there was just a massive disconnect between funneling the average player of the game into Overwatch League, and I think that was a failure of in-game systems. And I'm not too sure how much you can do externally for that, because if you're advertising everywhere for Overwatch League, yeah, sure, some people will watch, but surely you want the people who are playing the game to watch. And if I remember them saying like this was quite recently. I think they said they had like 10 or 11 million active monthly players of the game. Well, surely you'd want to get a few percent of those watching Overwatch League. And if that was doable, Overwatch League would have a few 100,000 viewers, surely. It wouldn't be languishing with the lower viewership that it's got. But of course, there's all these other issues, as we said, like people can't play the game that they're playing for Overwatch League right now and whatnot. But I think, yeah, going into detail on Overwatch League would just be an absolute massive. I mean, that's hours and hours and hours of discussion just on. I think it's control. I think it was an issue of control. I think Blizzard, Activision Blizzard had like iron grip on that, and especially for the first season and the second season because of broadcast partnerships they had with ESPN and Disney, which were very strict and stringent in what the product could be and how it would look. Imagine having like phase sprays in the game. And then it came to light that FaZe had a cryptocurrency scam running or something. It's like Disney is showing this on their channel. It's like, oh my God. So it became very, we've seen that in the broadcast as well. The broadcast was very weird because it had to be. It was trying to be welcoming to every kind of viewer, people who literally have never played an FPS game in their life because they're watching Disney, whatever channel it was on, or ESPN or whatever. But yeah, I think Overwatch League, again, I don't think it's a lost cause. I think it can be sort of saved, but all of the ways of saving the game and getting the interest back is dependent on increasing the player base. And how do you do that? You do it with content. You do it with lowering the barrier to entry.
It felt like they tried to sidestep that a little bit, right? With the whole localization thing. It seemed like they thought they could just go, actually, maybe our fans don't need to be players. Maybe they can just be fans of the location or whatever, or of the people. Yeah, do you think that was ever like a cogent argument to build this?
Yeah, kind of. So, derby rivalries are obviously amazing. Like if you're watching Liverpool against Man United, it's like even Man United are terrible, but the game's going to be interesting. Or Barca against Real Madrid or whatever. So those games are special. They're really, really special games. If you can replicate that, amazing. And the failure of Overwatch League, it's the quantity of the teams in the regions. That's the problem. So you look at Europe and you had London and then you had Paris. So you think, okay, British and French, there's going to be rivalry there. Great. But they don't play often enough. They are disconnected in the way they operate. It's just not great. But you look at NA and you go, okay, well, they did succeed in LA. And even just other states, look at Texas. That's great. They've done a great job there. But, UK would have been better if you had London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. I don't know. But that's not going to be doable because there's not going to be enough investment there. Germany would have been great. You had all your major cities, Frankfurt against Berlin or something. I don't know. Maybe you guys have got a rivalry there. I don't know. East versus West. Let's go. That kind of stuff. Yeah, you would have a unique aspect to your esport there. But I think it just fell flat on its face because there's just not enough teams in the regions. I guess in Asia maybe with the Chinese teams, but Seoul. Where's Busan? It's like that would have been a cracking rivalry if that was a thing. But it's not, and I don't know. I think, I don't know. I think geolocation is team. I don't know whether this is a European thing. Is this an NA thing? I don't know. You guys watching the video in the comments can probably tell us, or at least tell me. But for me as a British football fan, I would support a team if it was local to me, but I wouldn't necessarily care where the players came from. Now, this might be because the Premier League has corrupted me and it just gets all the players and it's like, whatever. But I would be a fan of like Wolverhampton Wanderers or, I don't know, Leicester City, or if I was going a bit further north, maybe Man United or whatever. But like, I'm a fan because I'm close to the team for a start. But then I don't necessarily care what the players are, where they're from, because I just want the best players in my team. And I think with Overwatch League, there was a hell of a lot of noise over your players need to be from where you're from, which obviously will be a massive handicap for loads of teams. Now, there is the odd player from, I mean, there's loads of good UK players, maybe not enough to completely build an Overwatch League team, but there was enough players that could fit into other teams and work well. And we've seen that throughout the league. I mean, we've got your countryman Haddy on in Spitfire at the moment. He's doing well, but like there's not enough from without using Korea basically, and obviously China as we started to see, to flesh out these teams and make them competitive and make them good. And I think there was a lot of, we used to get the stuff with Spitfire, like Korean Spitfire instead of London Spitfire. And it's like, well, yeah, we had British Hurricane had a 50% roster commitment to British players and talent, and they did really well, and they pushed a lot of players through. Obviously now London Spitfire has got a couple of British coaches, so they're doing well and whatnot, but I don't know. I think it'll be viewed as a failure looking back in time. It was not the right thing to do. Geolocation, I think, was a unique thing to do at the time, and I think probably helped with getting investors on board. Because I remember they had the exclusion zones around the teams. So if London had like a 300-mile exclusion zone around it, which meant no other team could operate, so that was your market. Well, of course, a 300-mile radius in the UK is the UK. So it's like, yeah, you own the whole UK. And then look at the value of the UK game market. I think is it third? I think it's behind, no, it'd be probably fourth or fifth or something. But it's behind USA, China, Japan. And then it's like, it's probably Germany, France, UK, they're the countries that are coming in there. So, wow, what an opportunity that is for an investor. And I think that's probably what it was. It's all like, I always go back to like cynical money issues, and it always is the same. But I think it would be viewed as a failure probably.
Do you think they could have maybe made the barrier of entry lower and just went, okay, here's the Overwatch League, NA, that's 12 teams. Europe, that's 12 teams. Sort of like what the thing is that the
like
Valorant is.
Yeah, Valorant. Yeah. And then just have a sort of a big mashup. What is it? Is it VCT or something?
Yeah.
Valiant Champions Tour or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have a big bash in Iceland or whatever. Yeah, that could be cool. But I think you end up with the LCS problem where you've got a division which is garbage and every other division is really good. And and then that division starts lacking behind. And I don't know. I think the problem, like obviously, physical distance is the problem with Overwatch. And when they put all the teams together in LA, you could argue it was its most competitive at that point.
Yep.
As soon as you start regionalizing, teams start going back to their home regions because they're regional franchises and they kind of have to. You end up getting, I don't know. It's garbage. Basically, all the teams should be together in the same region because I want to watch the best teams playing against each other. I don't want teams coming from different regions that are stronger or weaker. In Overwatch, we've got two teams in Europe. So if they were based in Europe, like Spitfire were the previous season, they're just trash and they've got a horrendous ping, which is just destroying them anyway. And they're not in the beautiful LA sunshine, so they can't play well. And it's like that's a problem. Yeah, okay, APAC can play together. Yeah, NA can play together, but we only get to see those teams play against each other in the cup finals. And depending on how they do that, always one team has a slight ping advantage. But even then, maybe that adds to the hype of those games. Maybe it's like, okay, I'm finally going to get to see. Well, Seoul seemed to be doing quite well. Well, everyone thought Philly was, but Seoul is doing well. So I'm going to get to see Seoul against Shock, am I, or against Dallas? Yeah, I want to see that. But I want to see it more than just once a blue moon. And I think, I don't know. I think Overwatch League just suffers from too many games as well. Too many games that are just not good enough to watch. I mean, like we're suffering with APAC right now, I think, and just the way they've been able to scrim or not scrim is just causing games to be not as great as what we're seeing from NA. NA looks way more tactical. Okay, obviously there's incredible players in APAC, and we've seen people pop off like mad, but already you can see there's a disconnect. So are we going to go into a thing this year where we're just going to see Shock and Dallas just dominate everyone? Maybe Houston start coming strong again, but I don't know. But like, yeah, Overwatch League. I think it's just hard. It's just hard to get hyped for Overwatch League a lot of the time. There's only a few games you get hyped for. At least me personally. Like I sit here and I watch Overwatch League. I watched 2 games today before we came on and did this video. I've missed Shanghai. Is it Shanghai against Valiant? I don't really care because
Mhm.
Valiant, they're absolutely shit, so they're just going to get annihilated. So I'm like, whatever. Like that game is pointless to watch. But maybe I learn something. Maybe I see a certain, I don't know, team comp. I won't see a team comp because I'll just see bloody. Well, in terms of DPS, I'll just see Tracer and Reaper. Maybe I'll see Soldier instead of Tracer. I'll see Winston. Maybe Ryan, but only if Haddy was playing, which he won't be because nobody wants to scrim against him because he only play one way.
um. Okay, let me ask maybe a little bit inflammatorily. Is Overwatch even a good enough spectator experience?
No, no, it's never been. The thing, it doesn't have to be. Okay, this is going to sound really crazy. It doesn't have to be. All Overwatch needs to do is attract a percentage of its player base to watch Overwatch League. That's it. It doesn't need to be viewable outside of that. If you're playing the game, you understand what's going on. There is a clip of the Mountain. You know the guy from Game of Thrones? Him. He was playing Overwatch on Twitch. He was playing Zarya. He had no idea how to use Zarya. He was tapping to fire her weapon. He was trying to attack people at range with primary fire on Zarya. But if you think about it, the game provides no feedback for that because you just see a big laser and he's like, I'm not killing anyone. It's the most like cringe thing ever. He lasted for about 20 minutes and then he went and played Warzone, right? And that shows you the problem with Overwatch in a lot of ways. That player didn't understand what was going on in the game because the barrier to entry, even in the game, very complex, very difficult for players. So they definitely need to work on this for Overwatch 2. I think they need a new tutorial in the game or something, just something to ease players into the game. But yeah, so you end up with a problem where I don't think, even though Overwatch is Overwatch League is difficult to completely fully comprehend. But if you've got some underlying knowledge through playing the game, which is absolutely critical, even like the Zarya example is great. If you don't play Overwatch, you won't know how she works. You won't understand what bubbles do. Do they make you move faster? Do they what does a bubble do? I don't know. It'll become apparent that okay, they absorb damage, but is it apparent that they charge Zarya and she does additional damage through taking damage on the barriers? It's not apparent. It is to the Zarya player. So I think Overwatch is always going to have the problem that it's very difficult to view. It's not Counter-Strike. It'll never be the levels of Counter-Strike. Even StarCraft, because StarCraft is like red team against blue team. I can see that armies moving together. I understand. There's more of this army. There's less of that army. Okay, there's loads of micro. There's loads of intricacies in the army builds and everything, but it's in the build orders. But you get to that stage because the basics of it you understand. Overwatch can be, if you watch an Overwatch League, it's like, okay, I'm not entirely sure. Like, what does Brig? What does Brig? Like, this is really. I love doing these like thought exercises because we obviously understand this. But what is Brig doing in the game of Overwatch? Well, she's got AOE healing through Inspire, but that is not very visually clear. So you don't know what she is doing. The pros know what she's doing. The people who are playing the game know what she's doing. But the average viewer, let's say some rando who's just turned onto the Overwatch League stream, just sees what looks like a tank in the back line flailing around and attacking people with a shield. It doesn't understand what actually that hero is doing. And I think Overwatch has always had that like sort of readability problem where you need to play the game and it handicaps the esports viewership like crazy. But if you've got millions of players, surely you should be able to get 2 or 3% of them onto your broadcast. And I think, I watched the CSGO major recently and they had like 700,000 concurrent viewers on the one stream. Like, it was in millions. The category was. It's because it's easy to understand. I can sit there and watch that with my mates. They don't play FPS games, but they know what's going on in that game. It's very simple to understand. Valorant is the same, kind of, although it gets a bit ridiculous with all the ability, especially with all the smokes. So Valorant has a little bit of a readability issue, but it still is like that is somebody who's mechanically good at aiming and they're getting the kills. You can appreciate it. It's very hard to appreciate, isn't it? A Brig popping off or a tank creating some sort of space to enable a play. It's so hard to see that in Overwatch because it's so layered. It's just and it's why you see a lot of not throwing shade on the casters and stuff, but because it's difficult to. Casting Overwatch was always explained to me as you're catching a waterfall in like a little cup. There's too much going on, and you can't. You're always going to miss stuff. But focusing on like a nano visor or a nano blade. Wow, it's a big blade. It's like, yeah, but how do we get to this point? What led up to this? You can't just mindlessly blade into the front line of the enemy. You're going to die. But they look at the way the team's set up. Look what the tanks done. Look what the supports are doing. All of this extra stuff. It's impossible to convey that to the viewer. So the viewers are like, I don't know what's going on unless I play the game. And even then, it'll be difficult to realize. So I just think there's, on like a very basic level, there's loads of issues with understanding what's going on with the game unless you actually play the game. And that depends on Blizzard getting more people to play the game, and then somehow pushing them through the experience of the game. And I think I've said to you before, Yiska, about the way quick play functions in Overwatch. It doesn't use the competitive rule set. So what's the point of quick play? In the beta, they had quick play rule set, but surely we could just attack and defend, guys. Surely that's not. You don't need a ranked system for that or anything. And but even in a live game, if you're playing a lot of quick play, you're not getting the experience of what ranked and competitive is. So you're not getting pushed through the system. If you're playing unranked in Valorant, it's the same. It's competitive. If you're playing just general games on Apex Legends, it's the same as ranked. Unranked and ranked, there's no difference. Just you got a rank in rank. That's it. So you're prepared for it. You're training for it already. And Overwatch is like, again, this is a positive of the game. You've got all these different gameplay modes. You can go in the arcade and play mystery heroes or whatever, and that's great. But I kind of laugh to myself sometimes. There must be like legions of players that all they do is play mystery heroes or something, and they're like, I don't know what any of this competitive is about, and I'm not equipped to do it. But yeah, maybe that's just a identity crisis for the game. Maybe it doesn't really know what it wants to be. What does it want to be? Competitive, casual, both? It's got a competitive league. It's a highly complex game. It's mental. It does too many different things, Overwatch does, I think.
There's always this discussion, and I feel like on both sides of the spectrum, like that super hardcores will always say, oh, this game is way too casually focused. And then you go to the Blizzard forums, and it's like, this game was destroyed as soon as they started catering to esports. Where do you fall? Who did we generally cater to?
I think they can cater to both, but I think their handling of catering towards, not catering towards, but trying to develop the esports scene was not great. Ripping, like I remember the period of time where no tournaments could be run because of Overwatch League was coming in, and it just completely killed the scene. It was crazy. But the problem is they, as the publisher of the game, and with obviously their ultimate plans of selling franchises for ridiculous fees, they needed full control, and they couldn't allow third parties to be involved in any of that. So I think that screwed up the growth of the game, organically screwed it up. They wanted the quick growth, the fast growth, and I think they skipped a lot of things that you need. Okay, we can all use Counter-Strike as the example here and go, well, what the hell have Valve ever done? Like, they don't do anything. But look at the game; it's like massive, it's incredible. But that's a game with like years and years of history, of completely refined gameplay loop, I suppose you could call it. Overwatch, I think, like, I don't know. I feel like they kind of want all aspects, right? So they built a game with very attractive heroes, and I don't mean like in the attractive, like, oh wow, that's an attractive hero. I just mean you relate to these heroes, look at them and go, wow. I mean, the hero I mained was Reinhardt because I played tanks in MMOs, so I was like, holy shit, I like FPS. I've always played Counter-Strike and whatever, but wow, the fact that I can be a tank in this game seems so cool to me, and I can use I can shout over the microphone, and that can be my skill in the game. That's really cool, But you've got, you've just kind of got like, it's like Jekyll and Hyde in a lot of ways. You've got a game which is very approachable, and then a game that actually under the hood is like very complicated and breeds a lot of frustration, I think, in players. There was always this thing of competitive anxiety going around where you'd have players who played a ton of quick play or arcade modes, but when they went into comp, they suddenly couldn't play the hero that they've been playing. They couldn't just play their Symmetra. They couldn't play their Junkrat because they're getting shouted at by the team to swap to this hero, to that hero, and they don't want that. And then they never come back. They don't play again. So there's all these issues that were like ingrained into the game that prevented players moving through. Ultimately towards, I guess, watching Overwatch League. But yeah, I think they just catered for everything. I don't think you can I don't think you can say like, oh, Overwatch League development wrecked the game, because I think they were obviously always planning to do that. So they always were set up to do that. They must have been. It's not something that came out of the blue. It's not like, wow, here's Overwatch League. Oh my god, what's this? They always were planning for that. And Blizzard have always wanted an esport element with their games. Obviously, they've historically managed them not great. That would be an understatement of the century. But I don't know. Like, I think it's just a clash of wanting complete control and ownership, and that sort of curtailed the growth of the product they had. And I think if we look now at what's happening with Overwatch League, I think they're sort of releasing the reins a little bit, giving them a bit of slack, because we're starting to see a lot of even things like the co-streams. Like they allow you to co-stream now, and they only for certain game days. But like, also just the way the broadcast is, it's more. This is going to sound cheesy, but it's more gamer. It's in jokes with its own community and stuff, which is it would never have been originally, because it was going for that sort of broad approach of trying to capture everyone. But as I said, it was always going to be impossible, because you can't. No one knows what the hell is going on in Overwatch. I don't envy the casters in season 1 trying to explain the game in real time to someone who has no idea what's going on. It's those guys should have been paid $10 million a season to do that, because that is like. I mean, you can shit on the casters that were active at the time and whatnot, but that is such a difficult mandate to even like. Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
One of the pipelines, I believe, is not just the gameplay, but also stories, right? And what you tell, what kind of stories you tell to the viewer, and especially the potential viewer. Now, one of the easiest stories to get someone interested is, hey, your country is currently playing at this World Cup event. And the stage we chose for that was also one of the biggest ones Blizzard had available to them during BlizzCon. Yeah. World was watching what kind of new games are coming. Oh, then it's also on the other stream is the BlizzCon event going on. There's already a full hall of people just being able to cheer. I mean, let's be honest, mostly for the US crowd. But
beautiful when I was there with the UK and we destroyed them. It was great. They're like, USA, who's chanting now, boys? No one. It was great.
Yeah, it turned it into a library real quick there.
It did, yeah.
Do you feel like as soon as we go back to BlizzCon, we should bring those back?
Yeah. So, Overwatch. Yeah, I think like, in the whole like esports ecosystem of what Blizzard have done for Overwatch, I think the World Cup was great, because what it did, I mean, obviously it's not the highest level of competition, but it was a great way of connecting with just the average player base. Players would be like, wow, I'm going to support my country in this. And that was like a great way of then trying to like get them accustomed to the players' names, and then maybe they follow those players into their Overwatch League teams or their contenders teams, maybe at a push. So I think it was great for that. Obviously, the timing of it was really, really good. Using it as like a showpiece event in the middle of BlizzCon, which has got all eyes on it anyway, and would also be announcing major Overwatch content as well, typically. Whether that will be a new hero or, load of new maps or whatever they would do at the time. It was like a perfect storm. So again, you know what? That does show you that Blizzard is capable of doing this. They are capable of. They can hit the right beats and they can do it, but they seem to be messing up a lot more than they generally succeed. In terms of it coming back for another BlizzCon, I think, will BlizzCon come back? I don't know. BlizzCon, have you ever been to a BlizzCon, Yiska?
Sadly, no.
Man, I've been to like, I don't even know how many, 16, 17, 18. No, I haven't been to 18. I'm just counting the years out. 4, 5, whatever BlizzCons. But like, it is not like, it's like a big meeting event for everyone who plays Blizzard games. It's not like it isn't like Gamescom. Gamescom is completely different. Like that's like, yeah, it's industry event. We're all just coming in here to check out the new games. It's like a family atmosphere, BlizzCon is. So I don't know if we will ever see one again because of like the direction the company has gone. When I think of like, if the Microsoft buyout goes ahead, is it really within their interest to have a Blizzard event when they can just host their own Xbox gaming event, which is just more similar to an E3 style production, which is just showing off their latest titles, which are Blizzard titles and Activision. So I don't know, like part of me thinks that we might not see a BlizzCon again. Not in the form that we've seen. Online BlizzCons, maybe we'll see those. And then as for the World Cup, man, I want to see the World Cup come back. But like on the other hand, I won't be renewing the sevenlions.co.uk domain. And I think that kind of tells you what I think. I don't think it will. Not in the same. No, I don't think it will come back. I really don't think it will come back. I think if they, I think they've got bigger issues than the World Cup, and I don't think they've just got. I literally don't think they've got the bandwidth to handle that kind of event or to put anything on remotely similar to that. I mean, if you look at Overwatch League this season, the first broadcast being streamed in 30 FPS and horrific quality, it's like what's going on there? You know, it's all these different production companies interacting with each other, and it's a mess. And it's like, guys, if you can't get what's supposed to be the marquee broadcast sorted, for us then to go right, then we need this and we need this and we need this and additional stuff. I think it becomes like a massive long shot, but I'd love to see it back. You guys can probably see like off my cameras all my jerseys I've got for all the years. I mean, I've been involved in the UK team, well, since it began. Unfortunately, I was in the team for the first. Yeah, I remember playing against Finland, which was all of NIP at the time, and getting absolutely bodied. And I'm like, well, what do you expect? It was a bloody popularity vote. Like, I can't play Overwatch at this level. What the hell? But yeah, they quickly got that message. And then the following 3 years after that was, I was just GM, and we were involved with building teams and putting them together. I mean, it was cool because, like, the other benefit to the World Cup is a lot of, like, how do you? So one of the things that I always wanted to do is, how do you get into esports? Like, Yiska, if you want to be a manager or a GM or a coach and you've got pedigree, how do you get to the tier one orgs? How do you get into esport? Well, the World Cup was a great way of doing that because you could bring people from obscurity and go, right, do you want to be an analyst for us? You know, Commander X, he was like, he was doing some stuff for Talon Esports, I think he was. I think they Indonesian based or something like that. He was doing some analysis for those, but he was like full time. I think he was working as like an accountant or something. We could see that this guy, he understood like the data flow of a match. It was incredible. So let's bring him in. Let's have him as an analyst in the World Cup team, because that's going to put him on a stage, and he's going to be able to work in the team. Look at Tanny. Tanny's now a GM for a Valorant org, quite a big org. I can't remember. Like, he's floated around. Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah. Tanny was like the assistant coach, assistant GM. Trid was my assistant GM. Trid is incredible. Trid is the most organized person I've ever met in my life. Like, he's incredible. Like, but Trid didn't need that help. Like, Trid was, you know, he was on his way. But even things like social media managers. We had Bad Pashamari as a social media manager. Crook, Master Crook, he was one as well. These were all, it's like, look at all this community we can build around this. And this gives people like a chance. And of course, the main benefits, people who benefit the most, beneficiaries, I should say, are the players. You know, they get to experience playing on a LAN, which is absolutely invaluable. They get quite a big lens placed on them, maybe not really completely fair considering the quality of competition, but a lot of teams would see players from the Overwatch from the World Cup and be like, wow, that player's popped off, he's awesome, let's see if we can get him into a team. But yeah, we did, like, I don't know, I see it as like a source of pride, that team, because it took a shed load of effort to get it running, and the amount of players that we got through into Overwatch League positions, I think, was really, really good. And not just players, coaches as well. Was great. So it was worth it. So it's like worth it in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. It's Overwatch World Cup. It's good memories, and it's also very stressful memories of lots of, you know, like we had the last Overwatch World Cup. I managed to set up an agreement with Belong in the UK, who are like a Game is a store in the UK, and Belong is their like LAN cafe division, and they really wanted to support us, and they did, and we managed to do a thing with Red Bull as well, to get access to the Red Bull gaming sphere in Shoreditch in London for a full-on boot camp. I'm like, this is incredible. but it's very difficult to do that because Blizzard don't want you to do that because Blizzard own the team, and Red Bull is a competing brand to Coca-Cola. So you've got all these issues, and they don't want you to do this, and it gets very like technical. I don't want to say it gets well, it kind of does get legal, but you're looking for loopholes to try and push things forward to get things done, and it's very stressful. But I think overall it was definitely worth it, and I do think it's very unique in terms of what Overwatch as an esport had to offer, even though it was never the quality of competition Overwatch League bought. But I don't know, I've got good memories of it. I do, especially the USA one. It's so good. That is such a good memory. Do you know what the best memory for that is? They had oh my god, it was T-Mobile and another, I can't remember who else it was, but they had a massive USA celebration thing for beating the UK setup, and they were going to do all these activations, which is just a fancy word for bloody interviews, basically, with the players. And they had these like cool things set up where the players were like going to be like, "Whoa, we've won this, but we beat them!" So all of it was cancelled. And it was like, "Yes, come on," because little old UK, well, we'll beat them easy. And we played really well against South Korea as well. It was a close game.
No, for sure. I mean, beating South Korea, generally speaking, is pretty tall order, especially at that time, right?
Yeah, I mean, when they won, Fury gave me his gold medal. I was like, "What are you doing?" He went, "Here you go," and he just put it on me. I was like, "I don't. This is your gold medal." He's like, "I don't want it." I'm like, "Get lost, get your medal back." Although I did walk around for a little while with a gold medal on World Cup. Like, I got a picture of me on like one of the escalators going down. Like, yes, I've won the Overwatch World Cup. For God's sake! So it shows you how little they cared about it. It was like, whatever, the World Cup, we don't care. Have my medal.
Now, I guess I wanted to end on a high note, and just about the only thing, in all this Doomer fest that we've had, just about the best vector of radical improvement I could come up with, and that is nowhere near definitive, but there's a chance, is the impending acquisition of Blizzard Entertainment by Microsoft. Now, it isn't in any way, shape, or form guaranteed to be positive, but there's a chance to, right? Is there, what do you think when you heard that? What was your initial reaction, and what's your second and third take about that?
So I was happy because I am like, there needs to be some sort of change in direction at this company, and this is a great way of a change in direction. Whether it will be positive or negative, I guess time will tell. I think when I look at Blizzard and the way they're set up, so that they were set in teams, like Team 1, Team 2, Team 3, Team 4, and whatnot. And what made Team 4 unique is it did function as its own little team, and it was quite good at resisting pressure from the wider Activision Blizzard monster. But obviously, I think that's declined as time has gone on. So maybe they're more susceptible to that pressure. I think what I would say for Microsoft is it's almost like they need like a happy medium. So I think it would be great if Microsoft broke down Blizzard into individual game studios. So it was just literally the Overwatch team. It's not Blizzard anymore. It's Overwatch team. And that's it. They're under Blizzard, whatever. They're under Activision. They're under Microsoft, but they're just the Overwatch team. And then they are the ones who control the destiny of that game. Now, maybe that was the case leading up to all of the changes with Jeff and whatever. Maybe that's the reason why we had to have these changes. So I don't know whether that's like a super positive or a super negative, but I think like in my head, that would like compartmentalize Blizzard or Overwatch away from Blizzard. And that might be a good move. Now, I don't know, that's probably won't happen because I guess the brand of Blizzard is still really strong and whatnot. So by association, they'd still want to be connected. But maybe that can be done as they're still, connected to the company. They just give them more autonomy, I suppose. But I don't know how Microsoft operate. All I can look at is the way they've treated studios so far. I look at Bethesda, and they don't really seem to have done anything. Microsoft, they just own them, which is fine. I mean, there must be pressures placed on them. Like, I think Starfield got delayed. Obviously Microsoft would have been involved in that decision. Maybe that's a good sign. Maybe they don't want trash being released, and they're like, no, we want a good game. It's not even an Overwatch bonus, but I think StarCraft will benefit from Microsoft because the way they treat Age of Empires, is quite nice, and they've got obviously a completely different monetization system with Game Pass. They don't really care about box sales; they just care about active subscriptions to Game Pass, and because they're all collective in terms of the profit generated by Games Pass. You know, imagine if all of the Blizzard games were collective, and then it would allow for exploration of different. You know, let's have StarCraft 3. We know StarCraft 3, well, any kind of StarCraft sequel was canned because RTS games are not big enough when it comes to box sales, and they're not. But if you add Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Hearthstone into the same pot, suddenly it doesn't matter, does it? If a little bit of profit is siphoned off for for StarCraft 3, you know, and we know Microsoft like Age of Empires, so maybe they would do that. I don't know, you know, so I don't know. Obviously, the other way of looking at this is it's homogenization of the gaming industry by massive conglomerates buying everything all, which is never going to be great. But I don't think Activision Blizzard, run by Bobby Kotick, is particularly something people want to stay around. You know.
Do you think the Overwatch development team should hire more developers? Should blow up the team size?
So here's an analogy. If I hired more video editors, it wouldn't make my videos any better. It would make production of the videos longer. And it might be better when they're finished, but it would mess my flow. And I feel like if you can't, you know, it's like too many chefs spoil the stew or whatever. You can't just throw people in and expect them to function and slot into a team. There's so many different ways of looking at that. Like from a pure number of employed staff members figure, you look at Overwatch, and I'm not sure of the figures. Like, it's like 400 or 500. I don't know. But like, imagine if it is that number. We know it is low compared to industry sort of levels of other studios. And then you look at even Warzone or just even Warzone on its own. Loads more developers, like Apex Legends, loads of Valorant, loads. You know, the Fortnite, millions of developers. It's like, yeah, there comes a point where tons of developers probably does help, but how long does it take to get those guys up to speed? How can you plug them into the systems you've already got? Like, how can you? Because you can't. Like, if I went out and was like, right, guys, we need to make more heroes, so I'm going to get. I don't even. What would you need? I don't even know what you need. Let's just be an idiot and say hero designer devs. So I need some hero designer devs. I'm just going to hire 100 of those guys and tell them I want 10 heroes a year. Let's go. Well, these guys could be all over the place. They might not even work together. You know, when I say all over the place, I mean just like the way they function, they work. They might have radically different ideas, and it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. So I'm not sure more is the answer, and maybe more is the answer when it comes to Activision Blizzard because of the way they really scaled up Call of Duty teams and stuff. Which, you know, let's say from a money point of view, if you've got a product that's doing really well, it makes sense to reinvest into it, doesn't it? And go, okay, well, let's increase the production. You know, if you're selling, I don't know, a completely random, that beautiful shirt you've got on, and you've got 10 sales, and then you get 20 sales, well, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to increase production. So then you get more production capacity. And I think that's how they think. And I don't think that's how games are made. I think games are like, you can't just produce them on a production line, can you? Overwatch was not made on a production line.
Very true, yeah.
Like, games that are on a production line and mobile games, and then Blizzard are making them now. So there you go.
Yep. Okay, so last question. You know, multiverses are all the rage now, right?
Yeah.
And like, we can play with the idea of a multiverse a little bit. And I'm glad to inform you, we are actually in one of the most reasonably best multiverses for Overwatch. In a year, we're going to sit down and go like, oh yeah, like it actually turned out way better than it could have. What do you think does that look like, and by which metrics have we achieved that? So, for instance, we're at X amount of player numbers, and we got this by having X amount of heroes, X amount of maps, we have new systems, blah, blah, blah. Go nuts. This is your multiverse.
I think so what we're seeing right now is the development team learning how to basically produce a live service game. And in a year, they've learned how to do this, and they are really producing content for the game. In terms of number of heroes and stuff, and that, I mean, I think there comes a point where you're adding too many heroes to the game. And I look at League of Legends, like it's got that many heroes, no one cares. You know, like there's only ever a number who are viable at any time anyway. So probably getting sort of diminishing returns on that front. But at least three, four. But the problem we've got is when Overwatch 2 launches, it's not normal. Like that cannot just have 3 heroes over a year. It needs a massive, like 6 heroes immediately in the game. A ton of, like, that's the kind of thing that'll shake the game up to a point of, wow, I'm going to come back and play this because look, there's 2 brand new support heroes here. Oh my god, there's extra tanks and all this stuff. But ignoring that, I think, yeah, they learn how to effectively develop a live service game, and they keep increasing the output of their content, quality-wise and frequency. And they, because it's a live service game, they try different things, so we don't see a return to the same events year after year after year. We see an event, and then we never see that again because they build on it with a different event that learns from the previous event. And again, this is very similar to like content creation for me on YouTube. Even simple basic things, like you'll learn from the way a thumbnail functions. If you make a little change, like, oh my god, I'm going to keep this change now. But for me, it's happening on like or it would have been happening on a daily basis. But I just hope that Overwatch goes into that type of mindset instead of going away, closing the doors for a year or whatever, working on a bit of content, and then going, boom, here's our big content. Check it out, guys. People enjoy it. Wow, it's great. But then going quiet again and then coming back. I mean, do you remember when they did say at BlizzCon 2019, we're going to go quiet for a year? What? You know, you're going to go quiet for a year? So what's going to happen to the game? You're just going to say nothing? It's like, that is, maybe that's boomer game development, right? That's development where you want to go away and make some awesome product and come out and show everyone and say, look at what we've got. You know, which Blizzard, you know, they've done that, and they've done it very successfully over the years with pretty much every game they've produced, apart from Warcraft 3 Reforged. But every other game they've generally come out with that's new. Well, and I guess Diablo 3 launch as well. You know, it's had an impact. It's like, wow, even Diablo 3, honestly, even being fair to Diablo 3, the combat system in that game was great. Like the animations and the way the action RPG played out was like amazing to see. But obviously, the rest of the game was not great at launch. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if they get their footing, if they are able to support the game, I think everything we've discussed kind of doesn't matter. I think we then just start to see growth of the game over time. Because like I said, and I've said this loads of times, there is no competitor to this game, really. Like a direct competitor that gives you the same. There is none. Yeah, there's FPS games, yeah. And these are all keeping people's attention. But in a world where you've got a fully updated, fully supported Overwatch alongside your Valorants and your Apexes, what happens then? And we don't know the answer to this question, but I think we kind of do. I think we know players come back to the game if it's free to play, if it's, you know, yada, yada, yada. But I don't know. Like, I'm still... I don't know, like I'm the worst person to ask about this because obviously, you know, I think I've made like 4,000 videos on Overwatch and I can't even tell you. It's like, so obviously I'm going to say, hey, I think the game's going to be great, or I hope it's going to be great, and I hope it makes a proper recovery to the level it should be at, because it should be a tier 1 game. I don't know whether it can be a tier 1 esport, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it can get back to that.
I think it's for over 4,500 videos, and I think it's over 330 million views at this point.
Yeah. I need to get a life. Yeah. And that doesn't even include things like Twitter. And then when you start adding all of that together, it gets absolutely crazy. It's like, yeah, it's a lot.
For sure. Then we hope your words of your multiverse on Blizzard's ear. And
hey, well, that's a very calm, I guess, logical multiverse outcome. It's not really a ridiculous like, oh yeah, they're just going to come out with 20 heroes and it's going to be insane and there's going to be all these game modes. They're just going to delete Overwatch League and come out with a new version of it. I don't know. Like, no, I don't know. Baby steps is what I'd say.
I'll tell you what, if they came out with 20 heroes at this point and they hadn't given us like one every couple of months at least leading up to it, I'd be more mad than if they had none. I think.
Yeah. Well, that would be ridiculous. That would be absolutely crazy. I've seen some people like claim, like, yeah, we need 10 heroes. I'm like, guys, what the hell? You're adding like mad numbers of heroes into the game. That's not the answer. Because again, the problem that has is you burn out your impact. Like you have to pace yourself out. You can't just like go, boom, there's everything, and then we'll see you next year, because the player base will go, and then we'll then see you next year. I don't know. It's just, I think like it's just all down to a fundamental change in the monetization structure of Overwatch. If it is free to play, if it has a battle pass, like all the data mining stuff has kind of shown off, then we see a different cadence of content output to support that. That's literally it. And what we've seen up until this point is a game that relied on box sales and loot boxes, which completely dried up and then was propped up with Overwatch League slots, and then trucked along for the next 3 years while they were trying to develop a sequel. Again, I presume to get more box sales. But then we had the whole thing of Jeff getting really like trying to say to us on stage at BlizzCon 2019, it's a sequel, but it's free, and it's like, who knows what's going on.
Yeah. No, I think
I do love the game though.
I think like the idea that this gets better as soon as we put the right incentive structure, especially for people being business minded, in place, where the live service now is the goal of the monetization scheme. And if I see a good battle pass that makes sense, for instance, maybe they're even pushing the envelope. They've always tried, and
well, I hope they do. I hope they do, because they could just plug in the Apex Legends battle pass, and it's just a load of boring player icons that no one cares about, and there's only really 2 rewards in it, or 3 rewards anyone really cares about. Or they could do dreaded things like heroes are locked in battle passes or something. I don't know. There's all kinds of caveats with a free-to-play system. But I think, like, I just kind of want to stress, like, my comments towards it in this video and in general are just, it increases the player base size, and that is kind of what they need to do. So maybe that overrides whatever way it ends up coming out.
Yeah. Then I hope, for the sake of everyone, that the player base soon increases, not least because those would then also trickle down into your viewership, and you get to also then do more content, of course, right? Because currently there's it's once again drawing blood from a stone, right?
Yeah, and it's not just me. It's like thousands of other content creators out there. It's players, it's people, it's friends saying, hey, have you seen this new Overwatch update? Let's play it together. It's that. And I feel like Overwatch has lost that completely, because they're now talking about, have you seen Spider-Man's latest skin in Fortnite or something?
Yeah.
Or The Rock is in Fortnite, guys. Let's go and check that out. I don't know.
Sure. Then, once again, thank you for the interview, and fingers crossed that everything we hope for in our most optimistic viewpoint going forward is coming true.
I've got faith. I believe, Yiska. I believe.
Let's believe together. That's all we have. Thanks for the interview.
Thank you.